Hello UFC and MMA fans, my name is Shane and today I'll be breaking down the entire UFC 316 card in full, starting with the main card, ending with the early prelims, going from top to bottom. This is the first time the UFC is going back to New Jersey since June 1st of last year for Makhachev versus Poirier. Let's get started with the main event. Sean O'Malley will be challenging Merab Dvalishvili for his bantamweight title. I've heard every angle of this fight, but I really couldn't see Merab leaving New Jersey without his belt. After beating the likes of Peter Yan, Jose Aldo, and more, as well as beating Sean O'Malley for the title and his comeback win against Umar in his last defense, Merab is potentially going to go down as the bantamweight GOAT if he keeps this up. I'm expecting Merab to actually outstrike Sean O'Malley. A lot of people aren't expecting this. The 5th round of last fight has been overanalyzed in my opinion, where Sean won. I think Merab was coasting a little bit, kind of knowing he won the title, knowing he was up. It's his first time in that situation. You can say it's a poor performance in the end by him, but in my opinion, I don't think it's that bad of a move, especially when it's your first title fight and your first chance at the title. Now, I'm not expecting Merab to get a finish here, but I'm expecting him to outstrike Sean, maybe not in the entire fight, but definitely in certain rounds, something not many people are going to expect, and I still expect him to dominate in wrestling. If Sean O'Malley wins, instant trilogy rematch. We don't see it often in the UFC. We don't see it often enough, in my opinion. But this is one of the first times in my time watching UFC where it's genuinely needed. If Merab wins, I think Sean O'Malley needs to move up a weight class. Now, I've talked a lot about how I think Merab's going to win and how I think this fight's going to go. But I want to talk about Sean O'Malley and all the changes he's made. A lot of people are talking about him quitting weed, him quitting other things I'm not going to mention because everyone has said it a million times and it's disgusting. He actually had a simulation of this fight in his gym with his walkout music coming out first. He had a shorter fighter and someone who emulated Merab very well. I love what Sean O'Malley's doing. I think that Sean plus 230 at the time of writing this isn't the worst bet to make in the world. But the only issue is he's fighting Merab. I think Merab is an awful matchup for Sean O'Malley stylistically. I think Umar would have been an awful matchup for Sean stylistically. I really don't think Sean can compete in a weight class with such good wrestlers. Moving up may be the only decision. I don't see him doing amazing if he moves up, but we never know. Another 10 pounds of muscle on Sean O'Malley could look insane, but we're also trying to put 10 pounds of muscle on Sean O'Malley. I have Merab winning by unanimous decision, which is exactly how I predicted him winning the first time around. Merab is here to stay, and he is going to become the undisputed bantamweight GOAT after this defense and this showing. Let's talk about our next title fight. Kayla Harrison will be challenging Juliana Pena for the bantamweight title in the women's division. I don't love Pena as champ. I don't think she's fun or exciting to watch. I don't think she dominates. At least 2 of those things, Kayla Harrison we know does and will do to Pena. Harrison is also a 750 favorite as the challenger. Since I've watched UFC, John Jones was most likely the biggest favorite to win a belt that already wasn't his. I can't think of another time someone was a bigger favorite to win a belt that wasn't theirs. Especially not a vacant belt. We know Juliana Pena upset Raquel Pennington, but to be a minus 750 favorite is terrifying. As much as I do think Kayla Harrison's going to dominate and win, we saw what the weight cut did to her and we saw how drained she was. That's terrifying to me. And even if she does win this fight, she might only have 2 fights in this division in her UFC career. It's just an impossible weight cut to make consistently. There's no higher weight class to go to in the UFC, which I think is unfair, but there's not enough women at 145 or heavier to make a division for it. I still, as much as I think Kayla Harrison is going to win this fight, I don't advise betting on it. I think the value isn't there. I think betting on how the fight's going to end would be interesting, but I don't even want to touch this fight, to be completely honest. Kayla Harrison, by decision, is how I have it going. But if she finishes Pena, she's kind of said everything she's going to do. The next fight on the main card, Kelvin Gastelum versus Joe Pfeiffer. Pfeiffer is one of my biggest favorites to win on this card. Not statistically, not betting favorites wise. I just like Joe Pfeiffer in this fight. An up-and-coming 28-year-old with a solid record. And this fight was originally set for March, which I actually think will help Kelvin Gastelum a lot more. Just not enough. A quick one here, but I have Pfeiffer winning by knockout. The next fight is my most anticipated fight for the entire card. Mario Batista versus Patchy Mix. And I have Patchy Mix winning by whatever the fuck he wants. Mix is a bad man, wanting to make his name in the UFC. Somehow only a minus 180 favorite. I think this will be a big mistake by odds makers. But also, we've seen a couple of very stagnant and slow debuts in the UFC. Even historically, we look at people that come over from Bellator and other promotions, they don't do as well. The number one person you can bring up at the moment, Michael Chandler. Michael Chandler came to the UFC with a lot of momentum, and a lot of it was sitting, waiting for Conor McGregor. He wasted a little bit of his time there. I'm not even going to say his prime, because I do think his prime was in Bellator. But Michael Chandler is a prime example of that the level of UFC competition is just different. Patchy Mix is going to be the first one I see actually changing that. I think Patchy Mix, in a couple fights, is going to fight Merab, or someone else who beats Merab, which I don't see happening. So I'm just going to say Merab for the bantamweight title. I think Patchy Mix is going to be a big name in the UFC soon, and I think he's not even close to done with his career, even though he's 21 fights in before stepping into the UFC octagon. Patchy can knock you out, tap you out, win by decision. I just think Mario Batista is being fed to the wolves. The next fight is Vicente Luque versus Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland is impossible to watch tape for. Very difficult fighter to predict. Luque hasn't lost since 2022. Holland's a 218 favorite at the time of recording this. And maybe I'm looking at this just from a betting line perspective. Maybe I didn't do enough research. But Kevin Holland has been very inconsistent in his last couple fights. I mean, there's no denying that. Kevin Holland has not put up amazing performances in all of his last fights. He talks a lot. Dana White called him Big Mouth. The way he got into the UFC over COVID was very, very interesting, and I respect Kevin Holland a lot. But I have Luque getting the upset here, and I think it's a great value bet as well. DraftKings, the odds aren't great for this one. Plus 180 for Luque. That's an easy bet for me. The next fight we have is Chaos Williams versus Andreas Gustafsson. Chaos, huge reach advantage. Chaos, striking advantage. This one actually has the closest odds on DraftKings, but I don't see much chaos in this fight. I see Chaos Williams getting another knockout win, and a lot of people on Tapology are predicting Chaos Williams knockout win. 87% of people think he's going to win in general. One of the biggest disparities on the entire card, but one of the closest odds. Doesn't make much sense to me. If we were going to see an upset, it would be Gustafsson, and I would eat my words. But I have Chaos Williams keeping it up here. The next fight, Sergey Spivak versus Waldo Cortez Acosta. I think Sergey needs this win, especially coming after the TKO loss to Almeida. Laying on his stomach, one of the worst ways you can go out. Spivak needs a win here to stay afloat in the heavyweight division, which sounds weird because the heavyweight division is in a very weird spot right now. And these are two lighter heavyweights, so it's not like there's a huge weight advantage for Waldo Cortez Acosta. And also, Waldo Cortez Acosta, great record. He wants to keep that. This is a weird matchmaking move by the UFC. Because also, Cortez Acosta is coming off of less than 3 months since his win over Ryan Spann. Not even 3 months had passed. Barely 2.5 months had passed. Sergey should win this fight, in my opinion. But a Salsa Boy upset wouldn't be that shocking, but I still have Sergey Spivak getting it done. The next fight we have is Azamat Murzakanov versus Brenson Ribeiro. Ribeiro has a 10-inch reach advantage. Azamat is the better striker, and both don't typically wrestle. And also, Azamat is a negative 625 favorite via DraftKings. There's not much to say. The undefeated Murzakanov is probably going to ravage Ribeiro, despite the reach advantage. A lot of people are bringing up that 10-inch reach advantage. I've heard it on a lot of different people's content and podcasts and everything. A lot of people want to call Ribeiro for an upset here. I don't see it. Murzakanov is a heavy favorite for a reason. knockout, and I'm even going to predict an early knockout from Azamat. To end off the regular prelims, Bruno Silva versus Joshua Van. Van is undefeated in the UFC, has double the striking output as Silva. Clear cut, Van wins. If there was a big upset to predict, though, I would put it on Bruno Silva. This is Joshua Van's 8th fight in 2 years. This guy is on a level of rise that we don't see often. We don't see this level of activity very often. I'm not going to say it's unprecedented. It's just not an often occurrence we see in the UFC. Van should be rewarded for this very well. Another win here, a 9th win in a row in the UFC. I mean, who's to say he's not in line for a contendership shot, a title shot in the coming years? I'm not saying it's going to happen in 2025, but it definitely could happen soon. Now for the early prelims, Markel Medeiros versus Mark Choinsky. This is a UFC debutant in Mark Choinsky, and I'm expecting Medeiros to take full advantage of that. This is somehow the closest odds on the early prelims, minus 205 favorite for Medeiros. I see everyone getting their money back on this one. Choinsky, interesting way he got to the UFC, interesting way he got to this fight. I don't think he's done, but I think the undefeated record leaves his resume. Medeiros by decision. Quillan Salkild versus Yanal Ashmouz. The battle of the 8-1s. Both have an 8-1 record here, but Quillan is someone I've written about before, and Quillan is someone I've watched a couple times now. Quillan is riding a hype train the odds makers are loving, coming in at a minus 575 favorite via DraftKings. Quillan is the better striker and grappler. It should be an easy win to make him 9-1 to get his name out there, and on the first big card in June. Quillan via knockout. Yeka Sergi versus Jusang Yu. Yeka is still fairly new to UFC fans, but a worthy opponent and test for the undefeated Jusang Yu. We don't know a great deal about Yu, but he should mop the floor in his UFC debut. Yu is a minus 485 favorite via DraftKings in his debut. Yu by decision. And the last fight, but really the first fight to kick off the night, Ariana Da Silva versus Wang Kong, and not a better way to start off this card in my opinion. The only advantage in this fight goes to Da Silva. They're pretty much even besides that. She has a 67-inch reach compared to Kong's 65.5. Kong has the advantage in striking and defense. And also, Kong has never been taken down in the UFC. Kong most recently beat Bruna Silva by decision, and she's looking to keep having a dominant UFC career despite being 33. Da Silva's coming off a decision loss to another Silva in Kareem. Kong is currently a minus 550 favorite via DraftKings. I'm expecting this card to have a lot of knockouts. I've predicted a lot of knockouts. They're obviously not all going to happen. If they somehow did, that would be insane. But I do have Kong winning by knockout here to get the prelims started. This is my first YouTube video on the channel, so if you somehow found this by mistake, I appreciate you staying the entire time. I hope you enjoyed my predictions, and I hope you guys enjoy UFC 316. I'll be making a lot more content in regards to news, other stuff that's coming up in the UFC. I have another video coming out in the next couple days, so I really hope you guys decide to subscribe, and I hope you guys check out my other platforms on Instagram, Twitter. I hope you guys really enjoy the pay-per-view tonight. Definitely going to be doing a recap or reaction, so stay tuned for that. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching.